Your question is what to practice.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Most people think practicing, well, first of all, you have to learn a vocabulary, the rhythmic, melodic, and harmonic vocabulary of the music. The question is, where do you get it? I got it from the tradition. I copied by ear. When I was going to Berkeley, there was a building behind there called 905 where a whole bunch of musicians lived in SRO, single room occupancy. And someone would get the new Miles record. We're all broke, man. And there'd be then 10 guys in this room, and we'd play that record over and over. And then everybody would sing the solos all together, over and over, then we would all sing them without the record. Once we could do that, we'd all go to our individual rooms and play the solos because we had them memorized. It was the oral tradition. It wasn't transcribing. It wasn't analysis. You're trying to learn a sound, not a theory. So we came to it from a sound point of view. That's the great thing about the oral tradition. But the question is, what do I practice? And what's the selective process? And I'm assuming that the selective process is based on your listening. You have to be listening 28 hours a day. One of the things I count on in my teaching is that everybody's been listening so that once I make a point, the ring of truth occurs. They say, oh, I've heard that, or I felt that. So prerequisite is unremittent listening, unremittent, constant listening to feed your ears sounds. And they're all there, and they stay there. You don't lose them. Then, here's what I think. I don't think it's a matter of taking external information and internalizing it. I think it's just the reverse. I think it's taking external information to bring out your own internal information. In other words, when you are attracted to a particular artist, there's a reason for it. There's a resonance that's been created between you and that artist. You respond emotionally and psychologically to the music. The reason is, one of the greatest definitions of art I ever heard is, art is supposed to teach you something about yourself you didn't know before. It's supposed to be a process of self-discovery. So, one of the biggest mysteries we all face is what to practice. And what do you need to solve a mystery? Clues. So, what clues? Well, the clue is what you respond to emotionally on an intuitive level. I can put you all in the same room and I can play a Coltrane solo and ask each of you to pick out your favorite lick. And most of you will pick out different licks because all of you feel differently about music. You'll pick a lick out that you respond to, you relate to. That lick is telling you how you feel about music, not how Coltrane felt about the music. You're not trying to learn how Coltrane heard, you're trying to learn how you hear. And these emotional responses to the music, external music, are clues to how you hear. And your responsibility is to get deeply involved in that sound. If you like everything Keith Jarrett plays, man, you got to study Keith Jarrett. And I mean, really get involved. I mentioned my studying Bill Evans recently. I never studied him because when I first heard him, I was very upset. I thought, oh man, it felt like modestly, we were going in the same direction. We had the same kind of feeling and approach. I said, I'm going to stay away from him. I'm not going to study him because everybody's going to say I copied Bill Evans, which they do anyway. But whenever he came to town, I was there every night, believe me, every night. But I didn't actively research and study him. So around 2000, Todd Barkin, who used to own the Keystone Corner in San Francisco, where I played many times and where Bill Evans played many times, gave me 2 sets of CDs, The Last Waltz and Consecration, of the 2 weeks of Bill at the Keystone Corner, first and second sets, 2 weeks before he died. And listening to these recordings were brutal for a piano player. As a matter of fact, I was spending the summer dedicated to listening to these, because for some reason, Bill was calling me. I was attracted to him. I was feeling this strong attraction to him. So because of this theory that I have, I felt Bill's trying to tell me something about my playing, and I got to find out what it is, and he's dead. So I started researching Bill Evans. I found as many books that I could find about Bill Evans. I managed to find a lot of doctoral dissertations about Bill Evans. I spoke to everybody that played with him that I knew, everybody that hung with him that I knew, and some that I didn't know. Everybody that I knew that got high with him, I spoke to. Everybody who had studied him. I did such amount of research, and I came to a couple of conclusions. Through the process of elimination, I realized I wasn't interested in his line playing, that I was happy with my line playing. So that's what now Bill was trying to tell me. And I realized also that I was happy with the rhythmic aspect of my playing, because I had learned the march beat, second line march beat, and learned how to syncopate. So the only thing that left was the harmony. And I realized finally, Bill was trying to tell me, fix your chords, Hal, they're not cool. And luckily I ran into a book by Jack Riley about Bill Evans, analyzing some of Bill Evans' playing. And I've known Jack over the years. He was the head of the jazz department at Harvard for a long time. Anyway, I got in touch with him, and I eventually learned that what I didn't know was counterpoint, and that harmony is counterpoint. They didn't teach counterpoint at Berkeley. And I've been around a while, you know, and I don't know how much time I have, but what I heard was it takes 7 years to learn species counterpoint. So I wasn't about to get the books out and start working on species counterpoint. But I realized counterpoint voicings had a particular sound, because the rules of counterpoint are based on the science of sound, the physics of sound. And so now, I've for the last 10 years, I've been going through my voicings, eliminating doubled notes except where required. Because as piano players, I don't know how many of you are piano players? As piano players, we are taught harmony as in a shortcut, stacks. Stacks of thirds or stacks of fourths. But that's just a shortcut. That's not true harmony, and I learned it that way. So now I'm working on my chord motion, trying to follow at least the general rules of counterpoint, which is all notes in a voicing must move melodically, independently, melodically. They must have a strong melody. So for the last 10 years, I've been working on that. Bill was trying to tell me to fix my changes, because I realized I was not, for decades, I had been not happy with my voicings. And he made me realize that. He brought it up to me, right to my face. Hal, your voicings suck. You could do better, you know? So I've been working real hard since 2000, working on my voicings, trying to get them, and it's just starting to get in my playing. 10 years. Because I got to get rid of old habits too. So that's a big challenge. So that kind of is the process. My first rule of practicing, practice what you like. What I mean is what you respond to on an emotional level, because that's telling you something about yourself. And, you know, as far as, and I'm also not a proponent of linear practicing, which is, I know a lot of people set up a schedule. I'm going to do an hour of this, and I'm going to do an hour of that, and I'm going to do an hour of that. I'm not a fan of that. I prefer non-linear practicing, because the first rule of practicing is you shouldn't practice if you're bored. You have to be interested in what you're practicing. And it's not like you don't have enough to practice, you know? I mean, you don't have to do it linear. There's so much to work on. You can jump around from subject to subject. As soon as you get bored with something, you're not going to learn anything if you're practicing bored. So you might as well cut it loose and practice something you're interested in until you get bored with that. Then to jump to something else. I mean, there's a gazillion things you all got to work on, you know? And here's why nonlinear practicing works. Whatever area you improved yourself in improves all the other areas as well. All change is global. Stuff isn't disconnected. Knee bone's connected to the toe bone, you know. Everything's connected. And I'll tell you how I really discovered this. I was in a period of playing, my roots are post-bebop. Chick, Herbie, Keith, that's my peers. But for a while in my career, when I got to New York, everybody was trying to figure out how to play intervallic pentatonic music. So I said, geez, I better get this together. It only took me 15 years to figure it out and get good at it, but I got good at it. And so I've been playing that way. I was playing that way for a long time. Then I got the gig with Phil Woods' band, which is stone bebop, with real beboppers. I mean, you can't get any luckier than that. And here I was still playing pentatonics, and it just didn't fit. So I realized I had been saying to myself, quote unquote, I'm going to play this way for 15 years, because I had been working on playing that way. Like I told you, it's a two-sided coin, you know, it has its bad part. So I said, okay, I'm going to go into the gig tonight. This was after my nap, and I'm sitting here in my coffee, mulling this problem over. And I said, I'm going to go in tonight, and I'm just going to push the little black and white things up and down and see what happens. No preconceptions. And what was shocking is that my bebop came back as improved as if I had been playing it for 15 years. That means whatever area you improve in, it improves all the other areas as well. You don't have to do linear practicing. Practice what you like. Practice when you're interested, because if you're not interested, if you're not concentrating, if you're not focused on what you're working on, you are not learning anything. You're just wasting time.